This happened to me 4 years ago in Tucson, Arizona. I'd driven down for an unexpected work conference, exhausted after 8 hours on the road. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of that budget motel off Route 10, it was nearly 2 a.m. The place looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. Peeling paint, flickering vacancy sign, carpets that squished under your feet in a way that made you not want to think too hard about why. I texted my wife Sarah when I got to the room, told her I'd arrived safely, made sure to lock both the deadbolt and the chain. In places like that, you learn to be cautious. I fell asleep almost immediately, the kind of heavy, dreamless sleep that comes from pure exhaustion. The phone jolted me awake at 3:42 a.m. I know the exact time because I grabbed my phone first, confused, before realizing it was the ancient landline on the nightstand ringing. "Miss Chun." The voice was professional, courteous. "This is Marco at the front desk. I apologize for disturbing you at this hour, but we received reports of suspicious individuals in the parking area tonight. I'm calling all our guests to remind them to keep their doors secured and not to open them for anyone." I mumbled a thank you, my mouth dry, my heart still hammering from being woken so abruptly. I hung up and tried to settle back down, but something fell off, something I couldn't quite identify. That's when I saw it. A thin strip of light from the parking lot cutting across my floor at the wrong angle. I turned my head slowly toward the door. It was open, not wide, maybe 3 or 4 inches, but definitely open. The chain I'd so carefully latched was still attached to the wall mount, but it hung free, disconnected from the door itself. Someone had unhooked it from the inside. My purse sat on the dresser, directly facing the bed. I had left it in the bathroom. I was certain of it. My laptop, which I'd placed on the desk, was now on the chair. Small things. Deliberate things. Someone had been in my room while I slept. They could have been standing over me. They could have done anything. But they didn't. They just moved things around, just enough to make sure I'd notice, to make sure I'd know. My hands shook as I dialed the front desk. The man who answered sounded half asleep and genuinely confused. "Ma'am, nobody from our staff has called any rooms tonight, and we haven't had any reports about the parking lot. Is everything okay?" The blood drained from my face. If the hotel didn't call me, who did? How did they know my name? My room number? Were they outside right now, watching to see what I'd do next? I shoved the dresser against the door with strength I didn't know I had. I sat on the bed with all the lights on, my phone in one hand, and my keys clutched in the other like a weapon, flinching at every sound until the sky began to lighten. I checked out the moment the sun came up. Didn't shower. Didn't eat the complimentary breakfast. Just threw everything in my bag and left. To this day, I don't know who made that call or what they wanted, but I know someone was in my room that night, and they wanted me to know they'd been there. That's what haunts me most. Not what they did, but what they chose not to do. The restraint, the control, the message. I still can't sleep in hotels without checking the room 3 times before bed. I worked a night audit shift at a luxury hotel in Charleston, South Carolina for almost 5 years. The Palmetto Grand, crystal chandeliers, hand-carved woodwork, the kind of place where senators and celebrities stayed when they came through town. You'd think a place that elegant would be safe from darkness. You'd be wrong. It started on a Friday in September. A couple checked in for their 10th anniversary. The Beaumonts. They were so happy, laughing at the front desk, him with his arm around her waist. They specifically requested room 412, One of our premium suites with a vintage clawfoot tub that had been imported from France. At 4:17 a.m., my phone rang. It was Mr. Beaumont, and his voice was barely a whisper. "I need help. My wife, she's in the bathtub. I think she's dead." My manager and I took the stairs two at a time. Mr. Beaumont met us in the hallway, his shirt soaked, his hands trembling so badly he could barely hold onto the doorframe. Mrs. Beaumont was submerged in the tub. The water had gone cold. Her face was pale, her lips blue. The paramedics confirmed what we already knew. She'd been gone for hours. Mr. Beaumont told police they'd had an argument about something trivial. He'd gone out for a drive to cool down. When he came back, he found her like that. The police investigated thoroughly, but nothing came of it. The medical examiner ruled it an accidental drowning, likely alcohol-related. She'd had wine with dinner, sedatives for anxiety. The hotel handled it quietly. Deep cleaning, grief counselors for staff. 2 weeks later, room 412 was back on the booking system. Mrs. Keller was the first guest after the incident, a retired physician who'd been staying with us twice a year for over a decade. She always requested rooms with soaking tubs for her arthritis. She lasted exactly one night. "I need to check out," she told me the next morning, her face drawn with exhaustion. "That room isn't right. Water running all night. The bathroom door slamming hard enough to shake the walls." And I felt her. I felt someone watching me from that tub. Mrs. Keller wasn't dramatic. She was scientific, methodical, but she wasn't the only one. Every guest who stayed in 412 reported the same experiences. Running water when all the taps were off. The bathroom door slamming. One guest woke to find the tub filled to the brim, even though he'd never turned on the water. Another found wet footprints leading from the bathroom to her bed, though the floor had been completely dry when she went to sleep. After the ninth complaint in 4 weeks, management quietly removed the room from inventory. Officially, it needed extensive renovations. Unofficially, we all knew the truth. Some guests never really check out. Mrs. Beaumont is still in that tub, I'm certain of it. Still replaying those final moments. Still making sure no one forgets what happened in room 412. I quit 6 months later. But sometimes, late at night when I'm trying to fall asleep, I still hear the sound of water running. And I remember her face on the surface, pale and still entrapped. I worked overnight at a mid-range hotel in Portland, Oregon for about a year and a half. The night shift at a hotel is its own universe. You see everything: affairs, overdoses, people at their absolute worst. But this guest was different. He checked in around 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday. Mr. Davies. Late 60s, well-dressed, expensive leather briefcase, very polite. His credit card cleared without issue. Nothing seemed unusual. Around 2:15 a.m., he came down to the lobby. That's when things started to feel wrong. "Excuse me, son," he said, leaning on the counter. "You wouldn't happen to know where a person might find some marijuana? Strictly medicinal purposes." I told him I couldn't help with that. His expression changed instantly. The politeness evaporated. Useless. Absolutely useless. He muttered something under his breath about worthless people and stormed back toward the elevators. I figured that was the end of it. Strange, but not dangerous. 40 minutes later, he came back downstairs wearing a full police uniform, complete with badge, radio, utility belt, everything. Acting like nothing had happened. Smiling. "Chatty, you married, son? Got a girlfriend?" I told him no, my finger drifting toward the panic button beneath the desk. He launched into this disturbing speech about relationships and prison and purity, getting more intense with every sentence. His eyes were wild, unfocused. After what felt like an eternity, he went back to his room. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. It was County Dispatch. We've had a patrol vehicle broken into about a mile from your location. Suspect smashed a window, stole a service weapon, taser, baton, and a uniform. White male, 60s, gray hair. Can you check your registry? My blood turned to ice. I gave them his room number. Within 10 minutes, the hotel was surrounded. SWAT, K-9 units. The works. When they breached room 307, they found him with a stolen baton, in a way I won't describe here. Let's just say it wasn't being used for law enforcement. As they dragged him out in handcuffs, he kept screaming at me, "Don't let them control you. You're free. Don't you see? You're free." Later, I found out he'd served 14 years for nearly killing his ex-wife. He'd been out for 8 months. Since his release, he'd been escalating: theft, assault, increasingly erratic behavior. This was just his latest episode. The terrifying part? His credit card worked. His ID was valid. On paper, he was just another guest. There was no way for me to know what was coming. That's what keeps me awake. Not what happened, but what could have happened. How many others are out there, passing as normal, waiting for their moment? I quit 2 weeks later. Couldn't shake the feeling that evil doesn't announce itself. It checks in with a smile. It pays with a credit card. It says please and thank you. And sometimes it comes back downstairs wearing a stolen uniform, waiting to show you who it really is.